The cat and mouse game continues, and L takes a major risk in finally introducing himself to the young man that he believes might be Kira. I discuss this and more on today's episode. Welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about all the unusual and out of the ordinary literature that I've found in my travels. Today, I want to talk about some manga that I read. I am back on that manga grind. And today's manga is all about a cat and mouse game and a book that kills people whose names are written into it. I am referring to Deathnote Volume 3 by Tsugumi Ohba with art by Tsugumi Ohba, and this was published around 2003. I've talked about Tsugumi Ohba and Tsugumi Ohba on this channel before, so I don't need to go into that great of detail, just to say that for Ohba, he's written a couple of different mangas, mostly of wild and unusual situations, and probably Deathnote is his most notable. Also, I believe Tsugumi Ohba is a pseudonym. We don't actually know who Tsugumi Ohba actually is, which is fine. A lot of people don't want, they simply want to produce their art. They don't want to be known or anything like that. And I've been cruising on through the Deathnote series and having a lot of fun in doing so. I should also note that I picked this up from my local library. Don't forget to patronize your local libraries. They might have intriguing mangas or collections of mangas out there. And so without further ado, let's talk about the Deathnote Volume 3. I will do a summary, a little bit of analysis, and we will move on from there. So Volume 3 of Deathnote picks up where Volume 2 left off. Light has pretty much killed many of the people who were investigating him, which has only brought more attention from L. And Light now finds himself under investigation by the Kira Case Squad. L has sort of narrowed it down to a couple of people, and even though L's father, or Light's father, is on the case, L insists that Light be investigated, and with the help of his Shinigami, Light realizes that there are hidden cameras and microphones, so he can't talk about anything, and he has to pretend to be a normal student while under investigation. And he prepares for an entrance exam to college coming up, and he in fact goes to take that major exam, and he finds a strange looking person who we know is L. He's at the exam, but Light doesn't know who that person is. And during graduation, we find out that both Light and L got the highest scores on the test. And at that point, L introduces himself to Light. He says he knows that Light is very intrigued by the murder case of Kira that's going on, and he says that he's straight up L, and he knows that it's a risk, but he's prepared to introduce himself, which Light doesn't really know how to react. And when he gets home, he's really angry because he feels like he's been put into a corner by L, although he later comes to realize that this is the perfect opportunity to find out who L really is and possibly kill him. When they get to college pretty soon, Light and L begin to hang out more. They play a tennis game where we see the thoughts inside their head, and it's pretty, they both believe that they're on the righteous side. They both believe that they're going to entrap the other and manage to finally defeat the other person, and it's a pretty high stress situation, a lot of tension at play there, and L begins to question Light even more, seeking more knowledge of his deductive reasoning, and Light has to kind of feign ignorance in some ways, but he also has to be straight up truthful, so that it doesn't appear that he's trying to feign ignorance and not be as smart as he actually is. At this point, Light's father has a heart attack, and it doesn't seem to be Light's doing, but Light and L kind of bond together and try to figure out what's going on with his father. At this point, they're watching the news when they find out that a person named Kira is taking the local news hostage and forcing them to play videos, otherwise they will be killed, basically announcing Kira's more news about Kira, like proclaiming his greatness and whatnot. And at this point, Light realizes that this must be a second Kira, another person with a second Shinigami at play, because this certainly isn't Light doing it. But Light realizes this is an opportunity to further draw L out and possibly entrap him so that he could kill L. And L, on the other hand, realizes that this must mean that there's two Kiras, because the real Kira would never be so careless in this way. And so L realizes that this is an opportunity to learn more about how Light does his work, or how Kira does his work, and Light realizes that he needs to grab the second Shinigami's Deathnote before L can get his hands on it. And as the story comes to a close, we learn about Misa, who has the second Shinigami and who wants to pay tribute to Kira. She seems a little bit more unstable and a chaotic factor as the series progresses forward, and that's where the story ends there. In terms of analysis, there is a fair bit to talk about with Volume 3 of Deathnote. One of the major themes that has been continuing throughout the series is that of the cat and mouse game. The detective hunting the killer. In this case, the killer is sort of the protagonist of the series. But both Light and L are hunting one another in an effort to find one another and prove their guile and or gumption or something like that. They're trying to set traps to identify one another. L wants to know who Kira truly is, and if Light happens to be Kira, so he's trying to sort of ask him questions in a way that only Kira would actually know. And Light is trying to figure out L's name because L has given Light a fake name of a celebrity, and so if that celebrity ends up dying, L will know that Light is the killer here. So they're both being clever in their ways. And I think the section with the tennis game highlights the convoluted process that they're going through, the thoughts, the four-dimensional chess, as it is, of them trying to ensnare one another and get one over on another and not be in a position where they're particularly vulnerable. It's like tennis. It's like a game of chess. It's certainly a very stressful situation, and I like how Ohba is writing it. It's very tense, but at the same time, it's a little bit funny. I don't think it's meant to be funny, but it comes off as funny as their reasoning and deductions become more convoluted, become more in depth, I'd say, more enmeshed in this overall scheme that they're trying to engage in. It comes off as a very humorous, as they're like, oh, I might be trapped here, but what about this solution? So it's very humorous, but it's also, as I said before, tense, and creates for a lot of very interesting drama. Ohba continues to touch upon the idea of divine purpose. Light believes that he was given this death note for a reason, and so he is justified in killing all the people that he views as bad, as holding back society. And Light essentially believes that he's killing for a greater purpose, that there can be no wrong, that he is a god, essentially, and he's probably the best person to hold on to the Death Note, which is a very psychotic way of thinking. But however, unfortunately, L stands in the way. L is essentially a blasphemer to the cause, trying to throw a wrench in the works and say that Kira is not as noble as he would hope to be. You see this sort of exasperation and frustration with L grow as the series progresses. At first, L is just a nuisance, but now he's heavily involved in Light's life, which Light does not like and is struggling to figure out a way to get around L. And what's more is L kind of senses that Kira is full of shit, no matter what noble purpose he particularly proclaims to expound. His methods prove that he's not as divine as he would think that he is. Allow me to read you an interesting quote from this. Well, I have no time for those who say the gods are capricious and beyond human understanding. For a god to need knowledge of someone's name and face to kill them is ridiculous. This isn't divine judgment, it's the work of some childish killer who's playing at divine retribution. That's all. And that's essentially L saying that Kira, the person who is Kira, proclaims himself to be a god, but all they are is a child, playing at their own sense of morality, playing at their own rules, and killing whoever they think is right. And a lot of the people that he is killing are criminals, but who says that Kira, or in this case Light, is the arbiter of who gets to live and who gets to die? It's not right in L's eyes. And it just further shows, like, because of his methods, that he's full of shit. He's a pretender to the throne of God or something like that. It's essentially all ego on Kira and Light's part. But I would argue that there is also a sense of ego on L's part, because L believes that he can stand up to someone who might be a god, that his methods of deductive reasoning, his smarts and intelligence are way bigger than this person who can seemingly kill with divine retribution, with the flick of a pen, by not even touching somebody. So there's a lot of ego at play here, and I think that's what makes Light and L both very interesting sort of opposites, very interesting enemies or nemesis or whatever you want to call them. Last thing I want to note is the introduction of the character of Misa, while very short, is very interesting because it introduces greater stakes. Not only does L have to deal with a new Shinigami or a new Kira on the scene, but Light has to deal with the fact that this person's going to get in his way. They're going to possibly create some chaos that's going to affect him and make him more vulnerable in that way. And who knows what Misa is even thinking and how chaotic she's going to be and how that's going to affect everyone. It's a very fascinating sort of development in this story, because it could just be this cat and mouse game forever. But I think there needs to be a little bit more substance and oomph in order for this story or this series to really take off and reach something more. Anyway, those are my thoughts on Volume 3 of Deathnote. Pretty fun entry into the series. Overall, I strongly recommend that you seek this out. It's a fun manga if you're looking for noir or something supernatural themed. It's a lot of fun. If you have any thoughts on it, let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear from you and possibly have a discussion. Otherwise, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that more people can find out about Tsugumi Ohba or the Deathnote if they don't already know about it, which I have a feeling a lot of people have seen the anime, there's probably not a lot of people who don't know about it. But until then, I wish you the best of luck in your weird and cat and mouse based travels. Farewell.